Welcome back to The Deep Dive, the show that extracts the most valuable nuggets from your source material, turning a stack of research into immediately usable knowledge. Now, today's topic is an absolute thrill ride, but it's one that is just fraught with serious financial peril. We are jumping into the world of luxury watch collecting. Specifically, we're focusing on the hunt for that perfect secondhand timepiece. And you know the feeling, finding that iconic model or the discontinued reference that just holds its value.
Or getting a deal.
Or getting a deal that's significantly better than retail price. It delivers a rush that, a few other purchases really can match.
That thrill, though, is dangerously counterbalanced by a massive risk. When you buy pre-owned, especially from a private seller or, some unverified marketplace,
Right.
you are stepping away from the certainty that an authorized dealer provides. For the secondhand buyer, the entire financial and legal burden of proof, the risk of authenticity lies squarely with you.
Exactly. And our listener is navigating this really complicated space, and they shared a comprehensive guide that's designed for exactly that person, the enthusiast, the collector, or even the first-time buyer stepping into the deep end of the high-value pre-owned market.
Right.
And our mission today is to give you a shortcut. We are going to extract an essential, structured, and repeatable workflow for luxury watch authentication.
We need to figure out how to blend decades of, traditional horological knowledge with modern technological tools. The objective isn't just to spot a bad replica.
No.
It's to create a layered defense system that helps you avoid losing thousands of pounds or dollars to a high-quality counterfeit, a superfake, or a deceptive Frankenwatch before any commitment of funds is made.
So the core question driving this deep dive, the one we really need to answer for you, is what are the non-negotiable checks every buyer must perform in today's, increasingly sophisticated market? And how precisely can cutting-edge technology like AI bridge that critical gap between your initial interest in a listing and final, confident, risk-free verification? We are structuring this knowledge to give you, the buyer, the absolute upper hand. Let's start by deeply unpacking the necessity of this process. The source material makes a really insightful distinction between buying new versus buying pre-owned, and it hinges entirely on this one concept.
Certainty.
Certainty, exactly. When you walk into an authorized dealer, you pay a premium for that brand new piece, but what you are truly purchasing is certainty. It's genuine, it has an unbroken chain of custody, you've got the full factory warranty, and you have zero doubt about its provenance.
That's the luxury of buying new.
Yeah.
But the moment you even look at the secondary market, that certainty it evaporates.
Yeah.
You are entering what we call a complex risk environment, and the landscape of threats has evolved dramatically.
Especially in the last, 5 years?
Oh, easily. It's not just about obvious, poorly made replicas you could spot by the wrong front size or the terrible sound of the rotor winding. The game has changed because the financial rewards for professional counterfeiters have just exploded.
That's the key distinction, and we need to define those modern threats clearly because they really do require different defense strategies. The first, and arguably the most terrifying for the savvy collector, is the high-quality counterfeit.
The dreaded superfake.
The superfake.
A superfake represents the pinnacle of illicit manufacturing. These counterfeit operations now have access to high-spec machinery. They're sometimes even utilizing materials like 904L surgical-grade steel, which was once a trademark of a certain major Swiss brand.
Right, that was their whole thing.
That's their whole thing. And now the fakes have it. They closely mimic the original cases, the complex finishing on the dials, the bracelets, the weight, the feel, the precise dimensions. They can be almost indistinguishable from the genuine article.
It sounds like the counterfeiters have essentially become unauthorized luxury watch manufacturers themselves, just without the branding rights.
Precisely. They've invested heavily because the margins on selling a, say, $50,000 retail watch as a used watch for $40,000, when their manufacturing costs might only be a few $100s, are just astronomical. These are so sophisticated that visual detection, even by seasoned collectors, is nearly impossible without specialized magnification, opening the case or using technology to spot submicron flaws.
And the risk didn't just end with the physical object itself. We have to consider the risk of forged or manipulated paperwork.
Oh, absolutely. Counterfeiters know the provenance sells. They know authenticity is tied to documentation. Our sources highlight the danger of expertly faked warranty cards, service receipts, even original sales receipts.
So it's the whole package.
It's the whole package. Think about it. If the physical watch looks absolutely correct, and the documentation, which often includes holograms, specific paper stock, and complex printing, also looks genuine.
Your skepticism just
It
drops.
drops to almost zero. You trust the package. And this is why counterfeiters spend enormous effort perfecting the documentation. They'll often even purchase genuine but blank warranty cards and then manipulate the serial data.
So if you only rely on checking the
You're
papers,
completely vulnerable. It's a huge trap.
then we have the specific menace of the Frankenwatch. This one is maybe more insidious than the superfake because, ironically, it contains genuine parts.
Yes, and that lends it this false aura of high-level authenticity.
So what is a Frankenwatch exactly?
A Frankenwatch is a piece assembled from mixed, non-original components, but it is sold under the deliberate pretense of being all original. The term comes from, the idea of assembling disparate parts into a single, cohesive, but ultimately false entity.
Okay, so we're not talking about a simple modification here, like changing a strap. Give us a couple of concrete examples of what makes a Frankenwatch so dangerous.
Okay, let's say you have a vintage sports watch from the 1960s. The movement, the engine of the watch, is genuine and still running well. The case may also be genuine. But over the years, the original dial has been badly damaged.
Okay.
A fraudster takes a completely aftermarket, non-genuine dial in hands, but ones that look appropriate for that era, and installs them. They then sell the watch as a 100% original, pristine vintage piece for like 500% markup.
So the key parts, the mechanical parts, are real.
But the most valuable aesthetic parts, the dial and hands, are totally fake, or at least grossly modified. The parts that really determine the value are wrong.
Or, I suppose, conversely, you could have a modern watch where the original case got damaged and the seller just swapped it out for a cheaper generic replacement case that still fits the genuine movement and bracelet.
Exactly. They've essentially stripped the watch of its true authenticity and brand integrity while maintaining a few genuine hallmarks. It's fundamentally misrepresented, and you're paying for something you're not getting.
And the final risk factor is purely transactional, the anonymous seller. We see this rampant across online marketplaces.
Oh, everywhere. These individuals operate behind throwaway accounts, sometimes only active for a few weeks, with zero verifiable reputation or community references.
So if a deal goes south, if the watch proves to be fake, or if the seller just vanishes after sending you an empty box,
Your recourse is virtually nil. They simply close the account and reappear the next week with a new name, a new listing.
which brings us back to why this is such a critical necessity for you, the listener. The financial cost of error is just immense. You lose thousands in one transaction, but then you're stuck with this non-resellable, uninsurable paperweight.
And the psychological cost is significant too. The profound disappointment, even the embarrassment of realizing that the highly coveted grail you chased for months is actually just a very expensive, expertly crafted lie.
So if the cost of error is that high, the objective has to be defined preemptively. We're not just trying to confirm authenticity after we've already paid.
No, that's too late.
We are trying to filter out the bad deals and eliminate high-risk sellers before you even send the first dollar or commit to meeting in person. This shifts authentication from a costly end-of-process confirmation to an efficient, low-cost, pre-purchase screening mechanism.
And since our goal is preemptive filtration, we need a structured workflow. The first part of this structure involves the human element. The source material correctly starts not with the watch, but with the person selling it. This is filter one, scrutinizing the seller.
I think this is where buyers, especially those new to the high-end secondary market, get way too excited about the watch itself and they forget to do due diligence on the person.
Absolutely. The seller's behavior is the biggest predictor of transactional risk. A legitimate seller welcomes scrutiny, it validates their integrity, and it speeds up the sale. A shady seller resists it,
Right.
and the non-negotiable requirement here is transparency. If they are not transparent, you stop immediately. The deal is off.
So what does true transparency look like, practically speaking? It's got to be more than just posting 3 blurry phone photos, right?
Oh, it needs to be comprehensive. They must be willing to provide clear, high-resolution, professional quality photos of multiple critical angles. We're talking about the dial, the case back, the clasp, the side of the case showing the crown guards.
And the serial number.
And crucially, the specific area where the serial number is etched or stamped. If the seller provides blurry, low-res images, or if they repeatedly crop out the serial number area, that is an immediate failure of transparency.
I think buyers should also insist on more than just still photos. I mean, With modern smartphones, a genuine seller should be totally comfortable providing a high-definition 2-minute video.
I agree completely. A video allows you to see the watch in motion, capturing how the light hits the finishing, how the bracelet articulates, and verifying that the watch is physically in their possession and not just a stock image they stole from the internet.
And beyond photos.
Well, the seller has to answer questions patiently and specifically. If you ask about the watch's service history and they respond with, "It runs fine," that vagueness is a red flag.
Right.
If they cannot name the specific authorized service center or provide documentation for a watch that costs 5 figures, they are failing the test.
Okay, so that's transparency. Then there is the track record check. A high-value transaction from account with zero history that's the definition of high risk.
You have to verify their history. This means checking for online reviews, cross-referencing their handle or their name across established watch communities and forums like specific subreddits, dedicated collector websites, time zone forums, that kind of thing.
You need to confirm if they're using a real identity.
Exactly. Can it be verified via LinkedIn or other professional sites, or are they operating behind a digital phantom that was created last week? A lack of substantial verifiable history should automatically raise the risk assessment to the highest possible level.
I often think of this as just the smell test. Does everything about this transaction smell legitimate, professional, and well-documented? If the listing looks too perfect or the price is just way too good to be true, you usually know the answer.
And that leads to the final piece of seller vetting, their openness to scrutiny. This is where we build that essential bridge to modern technology. A serious, reputable seller should be completely comfortable with third-party verification, both human and digital.
The buyer really needs to feel empowered here. You should be able to ask without apology, hey, can I run a quick check with an AI-based tool like TrustWatch using the dial photo you provided?
Or, are you comfortable meeting me at a registered authorized dealer so I can get a quick visual verification before I transfer the funds?
Right.
Resistance to any form of outside scrutiny, whether it's an expert inspection of video call or running a digital tool on their photos, is a flashing red light. A buyer who has nothing to hide understands and expects this level of due diligence.
A seller who pushes for immediate payment, resists photos, or dismisses third-party verification
Is highly, highly suspect.
Okay, so if the seller passes filter 1, we move to filter 2. Practical visual checks without opening the case. This is where even just a little bit of basic horological knowledge really empowers you. You are essentially becoming a forensic detective.
Right, you're comparing the piece against known, genuine specifications. And the first rule is cross-referencing everything against trusted sources.
Yeah.
Don't just rely on the seller's description alone.
So you're pulling up the official brand website or?
Official brand materials, reliable reference sites for that specific model and reference number. You need to check the basics. The case size and material, the dial color and layout, the bezel style, is it ceramic, is it aluminum, and the bracelet and clasp type.
And if the watch you're looking at has a date window at 3 o'clock, but the reference number should have only been produced with a date at 6 o'clock, that is a glaring mismatch.
And it requires an airtight explanation. If that explanation isn't forthcoming, you're looking at a probable Frankenwatch or a high-level modification.
But even if the general specs align, the devil is profoundly in the detail, particularly on the dial.
The dial is the highest value component to get right, and it's the centerpiece for authentication. It demands intense scrutiny.
Okay, so let's drill down on the dial details. What should you be focusing your magnifying glass on?
Start with the logo and text. You are looking for microscopic sharpness and perfect cleanliness. Super fakes often trip up here. For example, on certain high-end brands, the text isn't just painted on.
No.
It's applied with specialized techniques that give it a three-dimensional, slightly raised texture. Counterfeits often rely on screen printing, which, under high magnification, looks slightly fuzzy or inconsistent in thickness.
And what about the spacing of the letters?
Look closely at the spacing, the kerning between the letters in the brand name. Manufacturers are obsessive about consistency. A fake might have a slightly wider gap between two specific letters. It's that precise.
I've heard that on some iconic diving watches, you should look at the alignment of the date window relative to the Swiss-made text at the bottom.
That's a perfect example of a repeatable flaw. The spacing has to be precise, down to the fraction of a millimeter. Counterfeiters consistently fail to maintain that exact factory-specified geometry.
Okay, what's next after the text?
Now let's talk about the indices and markers. These are the applied components, the little metal bars or dots that mark the hours. They are incredibly difficult to replicate with consistency.
So you're looking for alignment.
Perfect alignment. If the index at 12 o'clock is a hair off center, or if the index at 7 o'clock is positioned slightly closer to the outer minute track than the one at 5 o'clock, that indicates poor factory control, which is just unacceptable for a luxury brand.
And the quality of the finish on those indices, too. They should have pristine chamfers or beveled edges that catch the light perfectly.
Exactly. The finishing must be flawless. Any sign of rough cutting, small burrs, or inconsistent polishing across the 12 markers is a massive red flag. And look at the lume fill.
The glowing part.
The glowing part. Is the luminous material perfectly contained within the metal boundaries of the markers, or does it look messy, uneven, or, applied outside the lines? Poorly applied lume is an instant giveaway.
We also need to scrutinize the hands. Like the dial, they have to have the correct lengths and shapes for that specific reference and that era.
Confirm the specific shape. Do they have the correct width, the right counterbalance, and are they finished to the correct standard? You're looking out for cheap, visible finishing tool marks, rough edges, or mismatched styles that point directly to a Frankenwatch assembly.
So a Frankenwatch might have, say, genuine hour and minute hands, but a cheap aftermarket seconds hand.
Precisely. Or sometimes a genuine watch will have a specific style of hand for the hours, minutes, and seconds, and a fake will use 3 hands that are all subtly mismatched in their finishing quality.
Okay, so beyond the face, let's talk about the metal components, the case, the bracelet, and the clasp. Counterfeiters often prioritize the dial aesthetics, and they neglect the fit and finish of the exterior metal.
And this is a major source of differentiation. You need to examine the case finishing. Luxury watch cases use incredibly precise combinations of polishing and brushing. For example, on many iconic sports watches, you will have a mirror polish on the sides of the case.
And then it transitions to a satin brush finish on the top of the lugs. And those lines between the two finishes should be razor sharp.
Precisely. They should be clean and even. Fakes often miss this transition. The edges might be too rounded where they should be defined, or the brushing might look hastily applied and inconsistent. The complexity of that case geometry is really difficult to replicate cheaply.
Then there is the bracelet construction. A luxury bracelet should feel solid, heavy, and it should articulate smoothly.
Right. If it feels flimsy, if it rattles excessively or looks roughly finished, your risk assessment should shoot way up.
What about where the bracelet meets the case?
Pay very close attention to the end links. These are the pieces connecting the bracelet to the case. They should fit the case contour perfectly, without excessive gap, wobble, or play. Poorly fitting end links are often a dead giveaway that the bracelet is either cheap or mismatched.
And finally, the clasp.
The clasp. It's constantly handled and should have crisp, deep, consistent engravings. Poorly executed logos, strange font choices, or shallow, inconsistent etching on the clasp are huge warnings. Even mid-level fakes often fail spectacularly right there.
So these practical checks, when you perform them diligently with good reference photos, they are essential filters. They'll eliminate the obvious knockoffs and the mid-level fakes, but they do stop short when you're faced with a truly sophisticated super fake, the one that looks perfect on the outside, which leads us to the critical limitation of traditional authentication for the buyer.
And this is a pivot point. For decades, the universally accepted advice has been, take it to an expert watchmaker or a dealer. And while that advice is fundamentally sound for final confirmation, our source material highlights why this traditional method is virtually useless for the secondhand buyer's initial risk assessment and due diligence process.
That advice sounds great in theory, but as the buyer, you are often working on a really tight timeline, especially if the seller is dealing with multiple interested parties.
We have to acknowledge the unparalleled value of the expert. I mean, they can open the case back, verify the movement caliber, check the serial numbers against internal or official brand databases.
They can check the screws inside.
They can confirm the originality of internal components like oscillating weights, screws, jewels. This is essential for a high-value purchase. But for the buyer who is still negotiating, still assessing the risk before commitment, the logistical problems are just immense.
The biggest killer is timing. If you are buying a highly desirable piece, the seller is not going to hold it for 2 weeks while you arrange to fly it to a service center in another city for inspection.
The buyer often needs to have already committed to purchasing the watch, often transferring a significant deposit or even the full amount before they can physically get that in-person expert opinion.
So you're taking all the risk up front.
You're taking a gigantic financial risk just to facilitate the inspection. You are essentially paying for the right to discover you've been scammed.
And the logistics and the cost are massive barriers for the average buyer. I mean, you have to first find a reputable, trustworthy expert, which is a whole task in itself. Then you have to contact them, arrange a specific drop-off or appointment time, and then travel there.
And here's the sunk cost factor. You will pay significant fees for this service, typically hundreds of dollars, even if the watch turns out to be fake.
That's a good point.
That inspection fee is completely lost.
Yeah.
It provides no value because the asset you thought you were buying doesn't exist. Imagine paying a $400 appraisal fee, waiting 4 days for the verdict, only to be told the movement is a cheap clone.
And then you have to try and claw your purchase money back from the now vanished seller.
Good luck with that. Plus, even when you get a good result, it's often an informal opinion. Our source points out that you typically just receive a verbal confirmation, not a standardized, portable, and legally useful report that you can use for insurance or future resale.
So, to emphasize the inefficiency, let's just lay out the traditional way again.
Okay. First, you commit to buying or paying a deposit on a potential fake. Second, you spend hours finding an expert. Third, you contact them, arrange logistics, and potentially ship the watch.
Then you wait.
Fourth, you wait days for the inspection. Fifth, you pay non-refundable, high fee. And only then do you get the verdict. This process is entirely backward for risk management. It assumes risk instead of mitigating it.
That whole model is really suited for a dealer who already owns the stock, not for a private buyer who's trying to avoid fraud in the first place.
Precisely. What the buyer desperately needs is a solution that is faster than sending an email, cheaper than a phone call, and usable before they commit any money or significant time. They need a high-confidence, non-invasive pre-check that can filter out the highest-risk pieces immediately. This allows them to reserve that costly, time-consuming expert verification only for the watches that have already passed multiple layers of initial scrutiny.
We need a digital firewall. Okay, here's the solution that leverages 21st century technology to solve the buyer's dilemma. Our sources introduce us to TrustWatch, which acts as that essential digital bridge between the buyer's initial visual checks and the final, costly expert opinion.
TrustWatch, developed by Hoken Tech, is marketed as the leading AI-driven mobile watch application for luxury watch authentication. It's designed specifically to democratize high-level verification, making it accessible to individual collectors as well as high-volume retailers and repair shops.
And their core promise is pretty bold.
It is. It's clear. Never buy a fake watch again. This tool fundamentally changes the risk equation for you, the listener, navigating this secondhand market.
That's a huge claim. So let's get into the deep dive on the tech. How does this AI system actually work? I mean, we hear terms like AI and machine learning, but we need to break down the underlying mechanism so you can understand where that confidence number comes from.
Well, the core of the system relies on supervised learning. Think of it like this. If you want to teach a child to identify a cat, you show them thousands of pictures of real cats. Supervised learning works the same way, but with a critical difference.
Which is?
The AI model was rigorously trained on a massive data set containing two distinct categories: thousands of images of genuine luxury watches and, crucially, thousands of images of known fake luxury watches, including the common superfake versions.
Ah, so it wasn't just taught what a real Rolex Submariner looks like. It was taught what the specific errors are in a superfake Rolex Submariner, the errors that counterfeiters consistently introduce.
Exactly. The AI isn't just looking for general likeness. It is trained to identify the microscopic flaws and inconsistencies that differentiate factory precision from back-alley imitation. The AI focuses on minute features often invisible to the unaided human eye, or features that require intense concentration and, a 10x magnification loop to spot.
So tell us what those minute features are. What exactly is the AI analyzing in those 3 seconds?
It performs sub-pixel analysis across several critical components.
Yeah.
The subtle geometry of the logo, the specific texture and depth of the font structure on the dial, the quality of the finish on the hands, where it's looking for rough bevels or poor plating.
Okay.
It's also looking at the alignment of the markers, checking for micron-level positional shifts, and it's analyzing characteristics related to the bezel, the crown, and the micro-etchings on the crystal.
That's fascinating. A human eye might see slightly fuzzy printing and just flag it as suspicious.
Yeah.
How does the AI turn that into an objective verdict?
Well, the AI uses techniques like texture mapping and geometric pattern recognition. For instance, it can detect the subtle difference between high pressure, thermal stamping used on a genuine dial, which creates a perfectly flat, consistent texture, and the slightly irregular and inconsistent surface texture of a counterfeit's screen-printed text.
Wow.
It spots inconsistencies in surface reflectivity, tiny differences in the depth of the applied indices, and even minor distortion in the micro-etching of the crown on the sapphire crystal, which is usually placed exactly at the 6 o'clock position.
Those errors are just too tiny or too numerous for a human to tally up quickly.
But they're definitive data points for the AI. And the brilliance, as you mentioned, is the accessibility. It works from images you upload, a quick photo from your phone. The analysis then returns a simple numeric indication of the probability of authenticity.
Speed is the killer app here. The system is designed to bypass all those timing and logistics issues of traditional authentication. The Siteflow confirms this. First, you upload a photo of the dial, which takes about a minute.
And the system explicitly needs a clear, straight-on photo with good illumination and minimal reflections.
That photo requirement seems vital because if the AI is relying on sub-pixel data, a blurry or poorly lit photo would just skew the results completely.
Precisely. If you have harsh shadows or direct flash reflection, it physically distorts the geometric data. It obscures the micro-etching on the crystal and the alignment of the hands. The ideal photo uses diffuse, even light, taken with the camera held perfectly perpendicular to the dial surface to eliminate any optical distortion.
And then comes the core of the tool. You let the AI work its magic, which takes about 3 seconds. 3 seconds to analyze hundreds of micro details. This positions TrustWatch perfectly as that fast pre-purchase filter that allows the buyer to vet multiple high-risk listings instantly.
It allows you to rapidly generate a high-confidence data point for a fraction of the cost and time of an in-person check. But since we're talking about high-value items, we have to look at the data and the accuracy transparency that Hoken Tech provides.
Yes, we need to understand the statistical rigor behind that 96.2% figure.
Okay, so the AI model's reliability was evaluated using a rigorous statistical method called k-fold cross-validation. This isn't just a simple test run. It's a way to ensure the model's results are generalized and robust.
Okay, explain why k-fold cross-validation matters to our listener. Why isn't just training it on one massive batch of data enough?
K-fold prevents a critical failure that's known as overfitting. If you train an AI on only one set of 10,000 photos, it might just memorize the specific characteristics and flaws of those specific photos. But if you then show it a slightly different brand new photo, it might fail, even if the watch is genuine. K-fold validation splits the data into multiple subsets or folds, and it trains the model multiple times, rotating which subset is used for training and which is reserved for testing.
So it trains on, say, 90% of the data and then tests itself on the unseen 10%.
Exactly. And it rotates that test set, ensuring the AI isn't just memorizing one set of photos, but is truly generalized. This confirms the model can detect a flaw on a watch it has never encountered before. This rigorous testing resulted in an accuracy of 0.962.
Meaning it was accurate 96.20% of the time on the tested data.
Yes.
96.2% is an incredibly high level of certainty for a pre-check tool that only requires a single photo. That should eliminate almost all but the very best, most elusive superfakes.
It should. But the source is crucially transparent that it is not a perfect system. They explicitly state that it doesn't replace a final professional check. And this honesty about the small failure rate, it builds trust.
Right.
It encourages the buyer to integrate this tool responsibly as a filter, rather than relying on it blindly. The caveat is particularly relevant for very new models or those produced in extremely low volumes that just haven't yet been fully integrated into the vast training data set.
And what about coverage? If it's designed to filter high-risk transactions, it has to cover the most commonly counterfeited brands.
The coverage is heavily targeted where the risk is highest. The tool covers over 500 different models, and it focuses on the 6 major brands that are high-risk targets for sophisticated counterfeiting due to their high resale value and global demand.
And those are
Rolex, IWC, Panerai, Omega, Richard Mille, and Patek Philippe. This coverage ensures the tool is relevant to the vast majority of second-hand luxury watch transactions that carry the highest risk of sophisticated counterfeiting.
the real-world impact is best summarized by the testimonials they shared. Hearing that this app actually stops someone from losing a huge amount of money, that validates the entire technological approach.
Absolutely. The collector who called it an incredible app, very impressive, speaks to the technological achievement. But the key testimony comes from the buyer who stated it saved me on wasting $15K on a fake Rolex.
Wow.
That is concrete proof that the AI is performing its core job as a high-stakes financial filter, preventing loss before the commitment is ever made.
That 15,000-pound data point really drives home the realization. This is an essential investment in security, not just some frivolous purchase for a collector.
So we have a powerful tool, and we have a high-risk environment. Now we need to synthesize this into an actionable, structured, repeatable routine. We're giving you a 4-step, standardized protocol for every time you consider a pre-owned luxury watch.
The learner persona loves structure, so let's start with step 1, shortlist and gather photos. This begins with proactive communication with the seller.
It does. Once the listing has passed your initial price and model checks, and the seller's passed your transparency vetting filter 1, you gather the existing images. But the critical active step is asking the seller for that clear, straight-on photo of the dial.
Right.
And we must emphasize again that this photo needs excellent diffuse lighting and minimal reflections for the AI to perform optimally.
The buyer can explain that this is now standard due diligence, that it's essential for a high-value purchase. And a refusal to provide that single, high-quality, straight-on dial photo should be an immediate red flag that sends you straight back to the seller vetting process.
Once you have the necessary image, which should be high resolution, ideally minimizing compression if it's sent via email rather than a low-quality social media chat, you move immediately to step 2. Run the TrustWatch check.
And you access the system via the official link provided by our source material, https://www.hokentech.tech/trustwatch.
Using the official page is vital to ensure you are accessing the correct, continuously updated, high-accuracy AI model.
And for those who are serious collectors or perhaps even small-scale dealers, the source notes that the TrustWatch Ultimate subscription is available. This is essentially an insurance policy for continuous buyers.
Exactly. The Ultimate plan offers unlimited watch scams, unlimited uploads, and it covers hundreds of models across all those key luxury brands. If you're buying more than one high-value watch a year, the cost-effectiveness of unlimited checks dramatically outweighs the risk of missing one fake.
So you upload that dial photo, the AI model runs its complex geometric and textural analysis.
And within 3 seconds, you receive the simple, easy-to-interpret result.
That result then feeds directly into step 3. Combine the AI result with human judgment. We have to stress this point. TrustWatch is a powerful 96.2% accurate filter, but it is not a replacement for all your checks.
This is all about responsible risk management. The AI provides a crucial data point. If the system returns a strong numerical indication of a counterfeit, especially when combined with any existing red flags from the seller anonymity, vague answers, a price that was too low, that is your hard stop.
The deal is off.
The deal is immediately off.
Yeah.
You have saved your money and, crucially, your time and your emotional energy.
Conversely, if the AI result is overwhelmingly positive, a strong confirmation of authenticity, that is your green light to proceed carefully. It means the dial, which is the most common place for superficial and mid-level fakes to fail, looks genuine to the most rigorous technological standards currently available.
But proceeding carefully means you still need to complete those other human checks. This includes validating the seller's identity and reputation, meticulously reviewing documentation and provenance, perhaps even cross-referencing papers against known serial numbers of forged sets.
And for a really big purchase.
And finally, for any purchase over 5 figures, you absolutely still need to consider a professional, in-person inspection before the final payment.
So TrustWatch eliminated the 96% risk of fakes failing on the dial, and the final expert inspection is there to eliminate the remaining low-level risk of a sophisticated Frankenwatch with internal component swaps.
It's a beautifully layered defense, and the final step in this process is crucial for the future, but it's often overlooked in the excitement of the moment. Step 4. Keep detailed records. This is about securing the investment after the fact.
So what are the records we need to archive, and why?
For every major purchase, you must save screenshots of the TrustWatch result. This is your documented proof of due diligence at the time of purchase. Archive the entire listing or chat history with the seller and keep all photos and documents together in a safe, accessible archive.
And what's the practical utility of this comprehensive paper trail?
Well, there are multiple high-value uses. First, for future resale, you can present this evidence to potential buyers, showing them the rigorous steps you took to verify authenticity when you acquire the watch. That dramatically builds their confidence. Second, for insurance and valuation purposes, these records confirm the provenance and the verification steps taken. And finally, for dispute resolution, if an issue surfaces years later, you have concrete, dated proof of the checks performed at the time of purchase. It shifts your position from a potential victim of fraud to a prudent, well-documented buyer. #tag outro.
Okay, let's wrap this all up. Our deep dive reveals that the successful strategy for the modern secondhand luxury watch buyer is a three-pronged, layered approach. It requires combining smart, structured checks on the seller and the listing, applying basic horological sense by comparing details to known references, and crucially, utilizing a modern, AI-driven tool like TrustWatch for quick, accurate risk filtration.
The key is layered protection.
Yeah.
No single method, not even an in-person expert inspection, because even they can miss things sometimes, is 100% perfect. But by layering these methods, especially the rapid pre-purchase dial photo analysis
Yeah.
provided by an accurate tool like TrustWatch,
You reduce the risk dramatically.
the chances of ending up with a fake or grossly misrepresented piece are just drastically reduced.
Yeah.
You are building an impenetrable firewall against unnecessary risk.
It's genuinely empowering to know that buyers now have access to technology that was previously only available to the most sophisticated dealers or factory service centers. The advantage is shifting toward the consumer.
That new advantage, however, leads us to a final provocative thought for you to consider as you navigate the market. We noted that the AI system is not perfect. It's trained on images of past and current fakes.
Right.
This means that the entire world of authentication is in a continuous high-stakes arms race. So the question is, if the AI is trained to recognize specific geometric flaws and texture inconsistencies, how quickly will the next generation of superfakes evolve to strategically move those flaws or introduce new, unrecognizable structural inconsistencies, specifically designed to fool even a 96.2% accurate system? What does this inevitable evolution mean for the renewed importance of immutable provenance-like blockchain-verified ownership and high-touch, human expert analysis that can spot the intangible feel or the sound of a truly genuine piece?
This is a challenge that ensures this market will remain fascinatingly complex for decades to come.
Something profound to mull over until our next deep dive. Thanks for tuning in and happy safe hunting.